Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
You are listening to Women's Running Stories, where exceptional women runners share inspirational stories about their running experiences. Hello and welcome. I am Louise Turner. I am the host and producer of this podcast, and I am a runner. And in my running journey right now, at the age of 54, I am working at breaking 20 minutes in the 5K. And this episode is the most recent update of that journey. This is Chapter 6 of the Over 50 Sub 20 5K project. And every couple of months over the last year, I have been tracking my progress in reaching this goal of breaking 20 minutes in the 5K in my 50s. If you have not heard the previous episodes in this series, I'll give you a quick recap. Back in June of last year, 2023, I closed the chapter on running longer distances, marathons, and ultras, and I started this journey toward getting faster at shorter distances with my eye on this goal of breaking 20 minutes in the 5K. I have never in my life run that fast. The closest I have ever gotten to breaking 20 minutes in the 5K was back in 2009 when I ran a 2018. I had thought for a long time that it was a 2019, but I went back and verified it, and it was indeed a 2018. Last year, after I ran my second Comrades Marathon, the 56-mile hilly road race in South Africa, I dove into this project. And the first thing I did after some rest and recovery from Comrades is I looked to set a baseline in the 5K. And I did that on August 30th of 2023. I ran a 21:10. I was totally surprised by that time, and it gave me a really good jumping off point. Then at the beginning of November, I did experience a non-running accident that took me out of structured training for about 2 months. And then I got back to formal training around the beginning of 2024. And little by little, I have been chipping away at this goal, looking at all the various ways that I can improve my running. Of course, time is the big thing on the agenda, but I have found that there are so many elements that go into being a faster runner. And a few things that have really stood out in this journey so far are addressing the mental and emotional components of reaching a big goal. For me, anxiety and confidence are two really big hurdles that I have addressed. And also working on pacing. So those have been some big things that I have worked on. And I go into a lot of detail in the previous 5 episodes about how I have been addressing those hurdles. Of course, I will provide a link in the show notes to those previous episodes. And please go have a listen if you haven't heard them already, because it will give you a lot more context about this journey so far. Now, where I left you off at the last episode was I had just done a race. I had done fine, but it hadn't been particularly satisfying. I was feeling a bit burnout. I was feeling kind of frustrated. And I also recognized that while my ultimate goal is to break 20 minutes in the 5K, I had yet to break 21 minutes in the 5K. So that became a new focus, to break this goal down into smaller chunks and really celebrate those intermediate steps. And now, while I had been a little bit frustrated and burnout, I also knew that I was really fit. And that was part of the frustration too, right? Is that I knew I had it in me to run a faster time, and it just wasn't happening. So I decided to take a few weeks off of racing and regroup and re-energize myself to go once again all in on the 5K and really capitalize on this fitness that I have built. Now, right around this time, too, my coach, Verity Breen, sent me a great quote from John Bingham, who at the time I didn't know who he was. He's a runner and a writer. And the quote says this: "Your progress as a runner is a frustratingly slow process of small gains. It's a matter of inching up your mileage and your pace. It's a matter of learning to celebrate the small gains as if they were Olympic victories. It means paying your dues on the road or the treadmill. It means searching for the limits of your body and demanding that your spirit not give up. It means making the most of what you have. It means making yourself an athlete one workout at a time. And I came back to this quote a lot after that mildly disappointing 5K that I had, because this is a challengingly slow process, but that is what it takes to reach these big goals. And I let myself settle in to knowing that this is just going to take time. So I took a little recovery because after that race, I was completely spent, not just emotionally and mentally, but also physically. I'd really given it my all on that day. So I took a little bit of a rest, and then I got back to it. And I'll say my speed workouts were not terrific, but they were good. They were solid. I didn't feel great, but I could give a good effort, and my body felt strong and resilient. And that is something that's been really surprising to me recently, is that my recovery feels really good these days. And that is a nice change from where I had been over the last few years going through perimenopause, where recovery was a big question mark. And there was just no consistency to how my body was going to feel from day to day. That is really largely over. And it is so nice to get back to more clear inputs and outputs. I have a hard workout. The next day I feel tired. I give myself some rest, and then I feel good again. So even on days when I don't feel terrific, I know that if I just give myself a little bit more recovery, I'm going to be fine. And that is always the way it goes. Because the other thing I've noticed about myself is that on days when I'm tired, I cannot go. Even an effort that I know on another day is really not that hard, it can feel really, really tough. And on those days, I just do not get too hung up about my pace. I know it's not the greatest day. I do my effort the best that I can, and I just let it go. I used to get really, really worried on those days, like, oh my gosh, I'm slow. I just can't do this. How am I ever going to reach this goal? And now it's just so much easier to let those workouts go and let them be what they are and move on to the next thing. So I had some solid efforts once I got back to some speed work, and I had one fun sort of break in the action. I traded in one of my long run Sundays to be on the bike, and I got to ride the bike for the lead woman of the Cork City Marathon. And as it turned out, coming into about 6 miles of the marathon and all the way to the end, it was led by local Olympian Aoife Cook, who went to Tokyo in the marathon for Ireland. She is a hometown favorite here. So from my perspective as the person who got to alert the crowd that the lead woman was just behind me, so it's time to cheer, it felt like one giant victory lap through the city of Cork, leading Aoife Cook all the way around into city center for a fantastic win. And I will tell you, being ahead of the lead woman coming into the finish line, the crowd is deafening. It was incredible. The whole experience was so much fun. It was just fantastic. So congratulations to Aoife Cook, and it was just an incredible day to see the whole city come out for this marathon. There was also a half marathon and a 10K, and it was just a spectacular day. So that was a really fun way to do some cross training and participate in the running community. It was just such a blast. And coming off of that, I've had a lot of visitors in town, and so immediately after the marathon, I had family coming here to visit Ireland. Everyone wants to come this time of year because the weather is nicer. And so I was fitting in my training around lots of sightseeing, and it really ended up just being a nice combination because I would get my training done in the morning. And so I got in some really good workouts, and then I could spend the rest of my day doing whatever everybody else wanted to do, sightseeing, driving people around, and showing them why I love Ireland so much. And then it was time to start looking forward to the next 5K. I had had a few weeks to recover from the last 5K effort, to get in some good training, and to rejuvenate my emotional and mental preparation. And there was one flat 5K locally that I knew would be a really great place to go after a new PR. And even though I was still feeling a little bit burnout, I didn't want to pass up this opportunity. And I am so happy that I didn't. So I got myself revved up to do this next 5K. I know this course very well because I train on this path all the time. This is a local bike path, and so it is a super popular place to run in the area, and it's really close to my house. And I had, in fact, not long ago, done a 5K effort in training on this very course. The only up and down on the entire thing is a footpath that goes over a highway. And other than that, it couldn't be much flatter. And there's only one 90-degree turn. That's it. So it's a pretty perfect opportunity. Now, one of the things that perfect opportunities do for me is they provide me with a lot of anxiety because I know it's just not going to get any better. On top of all of that, the weather was perfect. It was cool, but not cold. It wasn't windy. I mean, everything was set for a really great performance. So I focused on not getting anxious, not getting too overexcited, just going in calm and open-minded, ready to see what the race would bring. And with one big goal in mind, and that was to not go out too fast. That was really my one big mandate to myself. Do not overcook myself in the first half of this 5K. So I had a good warm-up. I was feeling ready but not anxious, calm but not too calm. I felt like I had hit a good balance, and I was ready to really go for it. In as much as I was still feeling that little bit of burnout, I really was focused on giving absolutely everything I had on the day, running smart, giving it my all, and capitalizing on the fitness and the speed that I knew I had. So the gun went off, and about a half mile into the race, I did check my watch. I was feeling good, I was feeling fluid, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going too fast. So I looked at my watch, and I was hitting 6:45 pace, which was right on target. Shortly thereafter, we were on the bridge that went up and over the highway, and I felt like I was floating. I did not feel the effort at all, and I thought, I am in for a really good run here. And the first thing that brought up is a little bit of overexcitement at like, oh my gosh, I think I'm having one of those magical runs. And I didn't want to get too carried away with it, so I focused on staying calm and giving a good effort, but not too much of an effort, just really trying to ride that line between capitalizing on feeling great, but not overdoing it and going too fast too soon. Coming in to about the 2-mile mark, so about 2/3 of the way through, I saw a friend ahead of me who is consistently much faster than I am. She's been injured, and even so, she always runs faster than I do. So it was a bit alarming to see her so far into this race. And not only could I see her, I realized I was gaining on her. And so I did have one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, I should not be in proximity of this person. I must be going way too fast. So I had a couple moments of like dialing it back and making sure that, no, I don't feel like I'm going too hard. I feel really good. I feel like I'm running within myself, but I'm giving a really solid effort. And I just thought, you know what? Maybe she's taking it easy. She is coming back from injury, so I need to not pay attention to what she's doing and stay focused on what I'm doing. And so I pass her by, I say good job, and I carry on. And I just stayed as much as I could calm in the moment, fluid, and of course, as I'm approaching the finish line, it's getting harder and harder, but I can feel myself able to give just that extra bit. And I just kept thinking, give absolutely everything you have because you really, really want to break through this barrier of this 21 minutes. And this feels like the day you're going to do it. And I had a terrific run. I stopped my watch at the timing mat at the end of the race, and it read 20:58. I had done it. I was thrilled. It was a magical run. I felt terrific. Finally, everything had come together. And one particularly satisfying point of this is that I went in knowing that I could break this barrier, and I did it. And that is very different from when I ran the 21:10 back in August of last year, 2023, because when I came into that race, I had no idea what I was capable of. This time I did, and that knowing, that sort of expectation that you're trying to make not an expectation, but you know you're capable of doing this thing, and it's dissatisfying when you don't reach the goal that you know you're capable of. All of those things, they can cause so much anxiety, and anxiety really hinders me from being able to run in that free, fluid way that A, just feels so great, and also B, makes for great racing. And so I was really excited about the fact that not only had I reached this goal, not only had I hit this new milestone, set a new PR in this project, but I had done it knowing full well going in what I wanted to do on the day. And I was able to do it. It was really, really just so satisfying. Here's the funny part of this whole thing, though, is that this was a gun-timed race, which meant there was no timing mat at the start. And maybe it took me a second or two to get over the start line. Whatever the case, the race time, the official race time that was clocked for me was 21:01, and it just made me laugh. I will tell you, I am not so attached to these times that I really cared about the 1 or 2 seconds at this point. That is not a big consideration. Had this been 20:01, this would be a different story, but because I'm sort of midstream on reaching this goal, whether or not it was a 20:58 or a 21:01, not a huge difference to me, but I did have to have a little laugh. And one of my friends pointed out, well, this will just keep you hungry. And of course, he's right. I would be hungry anyway to keep going after this, but the 21:01, I don't know, it just sort of made me laugh. And it was still totally satisfying, even though I guess technically I cannot say that I broke 21 minutes. But whatever the case, I was very happy, and I was very ready to take a bit of a break. So coming off of that, I took a little bit of a rest, and the next thing down the line was to take a break from 5Ks. I love this distance. It's a lot of fun, but I've been focusing a lot on 5Ks recently, and I know I just needed to mix it up. The other benefit of being somebody who tells stories of women runners is that I have heard that story from a lot of other women, that they've gone after these goals over and over and over again, and they start to hit this burnout, and even though they might be fit and ready to keep going, they just a little bit not sharp anymore on that particular goal. So this is all to say that I'm changing up the focus for just a bit here to go after some longer distance, like 5-mile, 10K, just for a couple of months, and also to mix up the stimuli. I think it's good for the training. I've talked to my coach about it too, and we agreed that having a little break from 5Ks is a good idea. So to give you a bit of a timeline here, that 5K took place on June 12th. So it's roughly been a month and a half since then. And not only have I taken a break from 5Ks, I've taken a break from racing. And I know that that was a good choice because I haven't missed it. I am getting back to it soon, but it's been nice to take a bit of a breather and just focus on training. I've also gotten in a bit of travel. I've been to Scotland. I got to go up and visit the west coast of Ireland, an area I've never been to. It was amazing. And most recently, I got to be on vacation, flying in to Venice, spending a day there. Most of the week was in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and the last couple days in Padua, Italy. And of course, all along the way, I did the local park runs, which is always so much fun. So yes, the last month and a half or so here, I have been focused on training, and I have been getting in some really great sessions. I continue to feel good, to recover well, and I've started hitting some paces that are surprising to me. One thing I continue to be focused on is not relying so much on my watch. So the way I do my workouts now, I pre-program them into my watch, and I do not look at the watch during an effort, but I look at the time that the interval took after the effort is over, during the rest period in between. I always know what my goal times are for each interval, and so I can adjust my effort or my pace as I need to based on what I see after the effort. And I also tend to find that it takes me at least one interval to really get up to speed. Like the first one is oftentimes a bit on the slow side, and then I get into it and speed up as I go along. So I don't get too concerned about what the first time is, but I do adjust my effort, accordingly. And sometimes the first effort is way too fast, so I have to adjust it the other way. But I did have a surprising thing happen over the last few weeks. And that is, my coach started giving me these 1K efforts at goal 5K pace to break 20 minutes. So training at the pace that I will need to run in order to break 20 minutes. And of course, I see what's going on here, that you want to be able to stack these efforts at pace up until you can run a complete 5K broken down into these pieces, these interval pieces. And that's a good sign that you're then able to pull it all together and run that pace over 5K. So when I got my first workout, it was 2 times 1 kilometer, as close to this 5K pace as I could go. I was very aware of the pace that I wanted to hit, and it's faster than I have been running these longer intervals. So I was a little bit nervous going in, but I just thought, I'm going to go for it. And again, I wasn't looking at my watch for these, and I managed to hit each one of them at exactly 4 minutes. And that was really exciting because that is exactly on target for the pace that I wanted to run. And it also shows me that this magical thing starts to happen, or at least it feels incredibly magical to me. And that is that I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where my body just knows how to run these particular paces. It's pretty incredible to get to the point where you're like, oh, I actually can feel that this is how my body moves when it goes at this pace. It's pretty neat. But at that point, I really had only done it once. So come the next week, when I got 3 by 1 kilometer to run at the same pace, I was curious to see if I would be able to replicate that sort of pacing. And pretty much I was able to do it. I was only a few seconds away from that 4-minute mark, and nicely, it was on the faster side of things. So progress. I am super excited for how things have been going. I also noticed that my legs were starting to have some built-up fatigue because I've been doing a lot of really hard training, and I've gotten in some good recovery and I've gotten in good rest. But over time, it does build up, and I could feel myself getting to the point where I really needed to have like a good, solid rest week. And the other thing that cropped up is I've been using my Vaporflies more often to do my speed work. So not only have I been running faster paces and doing a pretty solid amount of speed work, like I've been having 3 quality sessions a week for several of these weeks since that 5K. And with all of that running in my Vaporflies, I started to feel a little bit of a twinge in my Achilles on my left-hand side. And that is the side that I had an injury on several years ago when I first started running track. It is the same side I had my injury on. That was a non-running related injury back at the end of last year. And so there was a little twinge again, and that was a big red flag that I needed to ease off. So last week, which was the week that I was in Slovenia, and it was super hot. It's in the 90s there right now, which I do not deal well with the heat, and it was super draining. So it was a terrific time to dial back the speed work and just do some easier running and enjoy the sights. I got in tons of walking and a good amount of easy runs with a little bit of pickups here and there, but nothing that was a huge effort. And I feel so much better. I also got some PT. I got some needling done, which in the moment can be really tough. It can be super painful, but I am so thankful for it. Yeah, PT, it is really a key to not getting injured. And that is where I'm at. I am feeling strong. I am feeling really fit. I have put in a lot of great work. I am coming back from being burnt out on racing, and I'm looking ahead to a few longer races in the immediate future. Specifically, coming up, there is a 4-miler that I did last year. It was a lot of fun. It's a bit of a hilly course, so it's not particularly fast. And I'm just excited to get out there and see what I can do. It's an evening race on Thursday night, and I love these summer races here in Ireland. They're always a ton of fun. There's great food afterward. The atmosphere is fantastic. So I have that to look forward to. I've got a 5-miler and a 10K coming up in August. And then I am getting ready to move back to the United States. I am both incredibly sad to leave Ireland, and I have many things to look forward to going back to Boston. And that does bring me to the end of this update. Thank you so much for joining me. It is such a pleasure to bring you these updates. I will be back in a couple of months for the next update. And you can keep up with this journey on Instagram. Look to the show notes. I'll provide a link to the account that specifically follows this project. And I do apologize, I've been a little late on getting the weekly updates up on Instagram, but I will keep at them. You will see them. Every week I do an update. They're just not always right on time. So hang with me. I'll get them up. You can follow the whole process there in between episodes. And of course, you can follow Women's Running Stories on Instagram. I'll provide a link to that account in the show notes too. Thank you again so much for being here. I always appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you sharing this podcast. I am Louise Turner. I am the host and producer of Women's Running Stories. And until next Tuesday, I do wish you healthy, very joyful strides forward.
Women's running. Women's running stories.
Welcome to Easy Conversations, a podcast about covering the incredible human ability to overcoming adversity. I am Furkan Dania. I am a therapist and mental health advocate. Each week, my objective is to sit down with a guest and share their story of how they were able to find meaning and purpose through their adversity. These are conversations that we have deemed to be difficult, but they don't have to. Together, we can find a shared understanding. This is a podcast for everyone.